Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert
and Ryan.
Hey guys, so today we're going to be discussing the newest episode of Wandavision. What's the title of this one? Or what number?
Breaking the Fourth Wall, episode 7.
Yeah, that one. So, let's get into the recap or first impressions.
First impressions. Yours first.
So I would say that this episode, even by the end, after like a couple cool reveals, didn't quite have the impact of some of those other episodes, but definitely had this a couple of those very satisfying moments where it was like, aha, I was right, kind of. So I definitely enjoyed this, and I'm just waiting to see how we get towards the end here, and yeah.
I will say, upon first watching of the episode, I thought it was pretty good. Something about the aspect of like the sitcom aspect of this episode felt so familiar that we can sort of get into this later, but something about this sitcom format being so familiar that the jokes did not hit as well, because I've found this format to give me much better humor before. But upon rewatch, I appreciated the episode as a whole more. And yeah, that twist at the end, it sort of is reframing my thinking of the whole show in interesting ways. But let's get into that recap.
Yeah. All right. So this episode starts basically with the immediate aftermath of the Hex getting expanded. And
well, it's not the immediate aftermath, to be clear. The episode actually begins with Wanda waking up in bed and Vision not being there. Mm-hmm. And we immediately sort of get the key on what TV show this is chiefly parroting.
Yeah, Modern Family and The Office.
Yes,
right.
Because it's a family sitcom aspect, it's more Modern Family. But Modern Family was inspired by The Office, and the theme song's more The Office when we get to that.
Yeah, which kind of just lends to the idea that it's really a in between breaching, because The Office is came out in like the mid 2000s. Yeah, there you go, and ran until around a little bit after 2010. And Modern Family came out post 2010, I think.
It was like 2008.
Yeah, so it's
this is mid 2000s.
Yeah, so it's straddling the lines of that decade.
Yeah. So Wanda's in bed, sort of reeling from what happened the night before. Sort of, she's doesn't really know what's happened, and she's kind of seems just exhausted by the whole experience. Her kids run upstairs to say, "Mom, something's happening with our video game." And it cuts to the games literally being like, at first they were playing like, I don't catch the first console they're playing, but presumably it's like a modern console. And then they have GameCube controllers. Then they have like joysticks, and then they have Uno cards. So we see like the items are like going backwards in time, and Wanda doesn't really have any answers for them. And Billy notes that his head is noisy, like his head's filled with noise, and she's just sort of not really able to do anything to help them,
Yeah, she just seems typically like, overwhelmed, kind of like a sitcom mom is like, oh, I'm just so overwhelmed because of the kids and all these things, when it's almost playing it down a little bit, because the events of the last couple days, I guess,
it was the previous night,
are certainly more significant than what a typical mom would deal with. But she's essentially translating it into what a sitcom mom would. She said, I'm so exhausted, I just need a day to myself. But so she eventually makes her way downstairs.
So the next thing that happens actually is that the theme song plays. It's like a little bit of The Office with a Modern Family logo at the end to like really sell that it's these two shows mostly. And then we cut to outside with the newly set up sword base getting ready to go. And one of the SWORD agents reports that the broadcast has gone to dead air. They're no longer able to see what's going on inside. And Hayward, that's his name.
Yeah.
He says that SWORD will be launching today.
Yeah, launching some kind of offensive of some sort at this point.
We then visit Vision waking up at the circus and coming across Darcy, who has become an escape artist with the circus. She sort of retains her general personality, and Vision is able to recognize Darcy from when he had gotten out of the hex, which is interesting. He kept his memory from outside of the hex going back into it.
Mm-hmm.
But she doesn't remember him, and she's immediately like sort of put off by this crazy looking guy. And so we will get back to them later. Back with Wanda and the kids. Wanda does come downstairs and starts talking to the kids, and the kids have questions like, where's dad? What did Uncle Pietro mean by dad dying more than once? And Wanda responds by saying, kids, I don't have the answers. I don't know.
Yeah, which is fair. I mean, parents don't always have all the answers, and frankly, she really doesn't have the answers for most of this stuff. So,
and not only does she not have the answers, she comes at the kids and says, I think that everything is meaningless. So do with that what you will.
Yeah.
And then there's a cutaway of her talking to the camera. Maybe I went a little dark, but they'll be fine.
Yeah.
Those kids are tough. Their dad's skin is made of vibranium.
Yeah. So typical sort of joke. But I think right about that time, that's when it kind of prompts Agnes to show up.
Agnes does show up.
Kind of, her typical busting in. Hey, how's it going, everybody? And kind of save the day, save poor mom from her kids and sort of look after them for a little while. And, Wanda, let you have your day and relax and all that. So she takes the boys over to her house, we assume, and Wanda kind of goes about having her own day.
She gets a chance to relax
and watch a little TV.
Yeah, but then some things start to revert around her, and then she changes things back temporarily, but you can see she's sort of confused by what's going on.
Yeah.
Cut to Monica and Jimmy out in the real world. Jimmy has uncovered what Darcy was able to get into, and it was an operation known as Cataract, which reveals that SWORD's intention all along was not to just preserve Vision's body. They were trying to bring him back online. They were trying to bring him back.
Yep, they wanted their own sentient weapon.
Yeah, so he was basically lying before when he said that Vision's last wish was being disrespected by Wanda.
Yeah.
And he's being quite duplicitous, which is sort of what we expected.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just kind of moving a little further forward with Hayward might be the bad guy kind of thing. Or at least misguided sort of, leader of this organization. But Jimmy and Monica finally get in touch with what looks to be maybe some kind of contact in SWORD.
Yes,
that Monica knows.
It looks like a subset of SWORD operatives.
Yeah, who have brought in a planetary rover. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be from Mars or what it is,
rover.
But it's this thick looking, basically kind of what she described before, like a small bunker on wheels with platform and things strapped to it. And Monica basically gets ready, and she's going to use it to breach the hex and enter inside.
And we cut back to Vision and Darcy.
Yeah, who at this time, Vision, after trying to talk to Darcy in her sublimated state where she just believes that she's this escape artist, he snaps her out of it, and she tells him that she is she remembers who she is, everything now. And
yeah, she remembers things, and he starts to ask her questions, and she's not really able to answer much. But they then try to get out of the circus. They steal a funnel cake car and they drive off, presumably to go see Wanda and figure stuff out. We cut back to Wanda, who is again losing control, and she doesn't really understand why. And she goes to the interview panel and asks, I don't know what's happening. I just don't, I'm not able to fix it. And at this time, the sort of interviewer type fourth wall person speaks back and says, do you think maybe this is what you deserve? And she's sort of caught off guard and says, you're not supposed to talk back.
Yeah. And note, it's a man's voice when it says that.
It is a man's voice.
Mm-hmm.
On rewatch, it sounds like it sounds like it could be a pitched up woman's voice.
Okay. Well, that's, I'd want to double check and kind of see that myself, but I'll take your word for it there.
At this time, we hit our commercial break for a antidepressant known as Nexus.
Yeah. Typical, really our era, antidepressant or like drug commercial.
Yeah, an American pharmaceutical commercial.
Yeah, exactly.
With all the side effects being worse than what's being treated.
Yeah. And so, the name of this one is Nexus, and the side effects are definitely interesting, sort of suggestive statements in there that, we can maybe touch on a little later. But I'm just definitely intrigued by the word Nexus. Like, I don't think we've ever heard of that or encountered it any time before. So that might be something that we're not quite aware of that's being hinted at.
Because I'm a bit picky and choosy on what I want to get more details on when it comes to WandaVision. But Nexus is something where I was like, I'm going to Google this phrase, see if I can find out something on it. And I did find something on it. And it's up to you whether or not you want to talk about this now or bring it up later.
Let's bring it up a little later.
All right. So Nexus does have some greater meaning in the Marvel cinematic Marvel universe, not even just the cinematic.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're back with Agnes and the kids.
Yeah. And we have Billy and Tommy and Agnes saying, oh, mommy just needs a little time. And, it's, don't worry about it. She's just trying to assuage the kids and everything.
And Billy's playing with the rabbit, petting him, and says, I kind of like it here.
Yeah. And she says, oh, you like Mr. Scratchy or something like that. And his response is interesting. He says, yeah, it's quiet here. In fact, you're quiet, referencing Agnes. So revealing some kind of something's going on here. I mean, and we can talk a little bit more about that later, but
yeah, he says you're quiet on the inside.
Yeah, quiet on the inside. So, but then following that,
we come back to Monica.
Yeah, Monica, who is she is getting suited up and she's about to enter the rover, and they basically go forward with the plan, and she smashes into the Nexus or the Hex, and it holds her firm outside of it, and she is pushing and gassing it in there, and the rover begins to start to kind of penetrate, and you think that it's going to maybe pierce it, but instead it shoots up and it lands on its tires on the side of it, and then the barrier almost starts to assimilate it, and we can see that it's kind of starting to transform it and rewrite it, and Monica escapes out of the escape hatch before it gets halfway, rewrites half of the rover into just a diesel truck, and then just rebounds and shoots it off into the grass. Monica looks back at all of the assembled sword personnel and Jimmy, and she just turns and she runs straight into the barrier herself.
Yes.
And we see this interesting, crazy moment of her passing through the barrier, and she's like forcing and trying to move, and she's being split into all these different almost iterances of herself. Like,
yeah, and we hear quotes from Captain Marvel in particular,
mm-hmm.
a lot of Maria Rambeau, a lot of Carol,
mm-hmm. and Monica herself, but the younger version herself from Captain Marvel, and she's just, we hear all these things that are coming into her, see her struggling, and she's pushing. And at one point, something just kind of clicks. She forces her way, and those divided personas of herself just kind of like lock into her, and she almost sees a circular open within this strange world, and she bursts through. And Monica lands in there, and when she looks up, we see that her eyes are now glowing slightly.
They're blue.
And she's looking around. We're getting what we assume is a look through her vision. And she's looking at all these things around her, and they all have these crazy halos of rainbow lights. And
it's like electrical impulses. Like she's able to see the electrical radiation of things.
Yeah. Or like the photons of light that are coming off of them.
Yeah.
So after that, she just starts running and making her way back into town to go and try and find Wanda.
And then we cut back to Vision and Darcy in the car, and Darcy and Vision appear to be making their way, and Darcy starts informing Vision about who he was before and what his past was, what happened to him, and Vision is just asking questions, sort of clarifying basically the events at the end of Infinity War, where he dies and then is brought back only to die again.
Yes.
And so he's basically learning who he was.
Yeah, and also getting a little bit of history on why. If he's understanding that Wanda is doing something to this world, he learned specifically from Darcy that Wanda had to watch him twice. The first time by her own hand, and the second time by Thanos. And so you can see that maybe there's a little bit of understanding from Vision about why this is happening.
Yeah.
And so they're traveling in the car, and they come to a stoplight in the middle of a nowhere road. And after the stoplight turns green, then all of a sudden a construction crew comes up, and Vision specifically even mentions before this that, he thinks that maybe Wanda's trying to prevent him from getting there. And so cue, right on time barrier to keep them from moving any further.
Yeah, so it's clear that something doesn't want Darcy and Vision to get there. And at this point, we have Monica back, and she has reached Wanda's house, comes inside to confront her. All right, so we're back with Monica, and she's arrived at Wanda's house.
Yeah, she bursts in the door. She gets Wanda's attention. Wanda's like, "What are you doing here? I thought you kicked you out of here." And Monica says, "Hey, Vision's in danger. He's the real target. You have to do something. You can't ignore this." And Wanda says, "I don't want to deal with it. You are a liar. I don't believe you. Get out of my house." And starts kind of threatening her.
She doesn't just say that. She pulls up her red magic and picks her up and forces her out of the house, in front of the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, literally takes her outside and, goes to push her further. And then she kind of lands on the ground. Monica does. And you see this little bit of energy, as she lands hard on the ground, what would be, pretty impactful for any regular human, but she kind of just takes it, and you see this little bit of energy come out of her, and we're, just getting more of this little hint of something's going on with Monica.
Yeah. So Monica's just takes this time to try to reach Wanda and say, if Wanda doesn't stop the hex now, that Sword and Hayward are going to level the whole place. And if she doesn't try to fix this now, that she's going to become the villain. And Wanda replies, well, maybe I am the villain. And at this time, we get a little cut of Agnes from her window looking at what's going on. And then we cut back to Monica, and she's trying to empathize with Wanda, tell her, I know what it's like. I know what it's like to lose someone you love. I've recently lost someone too. And she's just trying to deeply empathize and humanize Wanda, trying to connect with her on a deeper level.
Yeah, just show her that she understands what she's going through, and that she's, trying to convince her that she's kind of on her side.
Yeah, Monica says she's not afraid of her. She's just trying to get through to her. But then Agnes shows up and interrupts and just starts to take Wanda to her place, and
says, "You leave her alone. She doesn't need any of this." And
then Monica's like, "No, just you shouldn't get in the middle of this." And then Wanda lashes out and says, "Don't, just stay away." Just basically that moment of empathy was just sort of ruined.
Yeah. I believe, and then from here we cut back to Vision and Darcy again, and they're just sitting there in the truck and being, waylaid. But eventually the, construction crew moves away, and Darcy's about to move along, and then a group of children, literally lines and lines of them, being led by adults.
And then we cut to Vision talking to the camera, basically explaining how, understanding Wanda's situation, I didn't know that that's all that she had gone through. And it sounds like something that happened to someone else, but for her, it happened just a few weeks ago.
Yeah. And then Vision, in the little talking to the camera moment, which it's funny, it had happened before, and it would show him sitting outside of the funnel truck on the grass, and almost I think he might still be at the circus, but kind of how you can be placed wherever when you're doing the little interview mode thing. But in that interview mode, he says, what am I even doing here? And like literally gets up in the interview mode, and then it cuts back and it shows Darcy, who looks over, and there's Vision phasing through the car, and he's flying away, which, I was even thinking in the first time, I was like, why doesn't Vision just fly? But of course, it's, following the TV show, they're just doing what they are kind of supposed to. So Vision flies off, and Darcy just is,
well, I guess I'll meet you there.
Yeah. So we, at this point, cut back over to Wanda with Agnes, heading into Agnes's house. She, tells her like, oh, you just, sit down.
I'll make you some tea.
Yeah. So, heads off. And Wanda goes to sit down. She sees a couple, eating little peanut butter sandwiches on the table, and asks Agnes, where are the boys? Seeing that they're not there.
Yeah,
she
starts to get a little suspicious. She sees the rabbit in the cage. Mm-hmm. She notices a fly on the curtain. I'm not sure what the significance of that. It's like a large, not pot of fly, like a locust, maybe even.
Yeah. And at first Agnes says, oh, they're just
playing in the basement.
Yeah, playing in the basement. And Wanda kind of gets up and starts to go, walk around the house, and opens the door to the basement, starts calling out, boys, going down there, following her way, and then she sees some sort of passage with roots growing out of it, and it looks like it leads into a stone hallway.
It's like an ancient sort of magical type of tunnelway.
Yeah.
As she's walking through the tunnelway, we see the aspect ratio change back to that real world aspect ratio that we've come to recognize anytime they leave the hex.
Yeah. And then she enters into this sort of gothic like
chamber,
yeah, where she looks around and she sees some strange sort of effigies and what looks like a book that's radiating some sort of energy.
A glowing book at an altar.
And as she's looking around confused, we hear Agnes come in and say, oh, well, Wanda, you
didn't think you were the only magical lady around here.
She says, Agatha Harkness, nice to meet you. Ha ha ha. And then you can see her manipulate some kind of purple energy, very similar to Wanda's, but a different color. And it goes into Wanda's eyes, her vision. And then we see almost a
montage.
A montage of effects. It was Agatha all along.
Yeah. We see her in the first episode approaching the house. Basically, it looks like she's transforming from a witch into her neighborly self in the first episode. Mm-hmm. We see her at the magic show, flicking her fingers around and all sorts of other little things throughout the show where she was manipulating stuff. We see her. It appears that she created Pietro to come up to the house. And at the end of it, and it's playing the song Agatha all along, like its own little separate TV show.
Yeah.
And at the end, she says, and I killed Sparky, too.
That bitch.
Yeah.
She killed Sparky.
All right. Now, here's the real question. Because I didn't sit through the credits the first time. Mm-hmm. Did you?
Oh, no. God dang darn. You know how many times I've sat through these credits and then just been like, all right, there's nothing at the end of the credits. I'm not even going to bother anymore. All right.
So do you want me to tell it to you?
Tell it to me. Go ahead.
All right. It's actually quite short. We see Monica coming up to Agnes's house, and she's sort of looking around, trying to look in, and she comes across the outside basement access. She opens the doors. She sees some the purple magic sort of flowing down the stairwell. And then Pietro walks up to her and says, Snooper's going to snoop. And that's it.
Wow. Holy crap. I can't believe I didn't see it. Dag nabbit.
The one post. I mean, I didn't know it was there either until I saw online that there was a post-credit scene.
These guys. I'm almost a little bit impressed, Disney, that you went ahead and didn't put a post-credit so many episodes in, and then you just go ahead and drop one on us. That's, yeah, very literally. I have stayed in and watched to the ends of these post-credit scenes for the first 5 episodes. So the last few I haven't, but bravo, Disney. Good job.
I know.
Now I have to go back and rewatch it again.
Yeah. I mean, I recommend rewatching. Honestly, I kind of wanted to rewatch every episode coming into this just so that I would have that information. But so I didn't rewatch every episode. However, I think we should begin our breaking down discussion by talking about Agnes throughout the show. Let's try to reframe everything that happens. Because as I was thinking about it, I started to realize ulterior motives she may have been having in each episode. So let's start with episode 1.
So episode 1, I mean, that's when we basically get our initial introduction to her, right? And again, I'm going to probably be wrong on a couple of these or not quite, accurate. So Ryan might correct me, or, maybe you guys can drop in the comments and say, Robert, you're an idiot. That's not how it happened. So I think she, kind of comes in as the first episode is the one with the boss, correct?
Yeah, the dinner party.
So that's the one where she comes in, and she's actually the one that leads Wanda to believe that the special day must be their anniversary.
Yes. So that's sort of what I am thinking. It seems like she was just there kind of interfering, like kind of messing up the dinner party in a way.
Yeah. So, and then one thing, so, again, if we just take it in a reframe and sort of, come up with some theories here, she also shows up to deliver something during the dinner as well. Oh, you forgot this, right in time for them to actually see her say that. So maybe even trying to mess it up a little more, make the dinner.
Yeah.
And then the guy who starts to, the boss starts to choke on the dinner. So maybe she had something to do with the choking as well.
Yeah, that's possible as well. Yeah. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to read off of what Agnes may have done in the first episode. So that's sort of where I just saw she was probably interfering with the dinner party.
Yeah.
Episode 2, we get the flashback that she's doing something to interfere with the magic show. But what I find more fascinating is the conversation she has with Wanda when Wanda first leaves the house.
Tell me more about that.
Well, basically, from a clip I found, because I didn't have time to rewatch the whole episode, so I just tried to find a way to rewatch some clips. It sort of seems like Wanda is saying, "Well, I bet if I just am myself around the other wives, it'll be all good, and I'll be able, it'll all turn out fine." And Agnes sort of laughs at her, like, "Oh, are you kidding me?" Basically trying to trip up Wanda and make her feel less self-confident in what she's about to go do with the other women. Again, just kind of interfering and making Wanda less sure of herself.
And then in the third episode, or it wouldn't be,
episode 3.
Yeah, episode 3. What we see is Agnes is outside talking to the neighbor, Herb.
Yeah.
And that they're having this very intense kind of conversation. And we already seen Herb sort of in this weird, having a glitch almost and cutting into the concrete. But when Agnes shows up, that's before he's there. When she shows up, then they're having a whole different kind of conversation. And that conversation leads Vision to start suspecting things. So
yes,
she might have been one that
she's planting the seed of doubt in Vision, and also highlighting that Geraldine shouldn't have been there. Geraldine is an outsider.
Yep.
And we do see in the flashback of Agatha all along that she uses her magic on her.
Yeah, we can assume, and she was releasing him from it. Then we go to in episode 5, because 4 was our recap episode.
I do want to make a note about episode 4. In that episode, we see the team gathering intel on all of the residents, all of the notable residents, and they match up. Oh, this person is this person, and this person is this person. I went back to that episode to look at the board, their final board of all the residents, and all of the major characters at that point that we were able to identify, they had a real life counterpart. Except for Agnes. Yep. She didn't have a real person. Her face was up there, but they didn't have any real person ID linked to it. And that's one of those little things that I just didn't notice.
And well, that makes me believe one thing somewhat is that because the reason that Jimmy originally came was for someone that was in witness protection, but he didn't say who. And nobody that he talked to knew who they were. So I think in some sense, Jimmy didn't even know who the witness was as well. I think this is maybe just an idea, but that maybe Agatha was the one in witness protection because she knew something. I mean, maybe that's, not quite right, but I think it might like because in the end they were able to find identities from everybody else except for Agatha because her identity's been wiped or changed.
Possibly, or maybe she's not even Agatha. There's a lot to learn on her, but that's just something that I wanted to know. Episode 5.
Episode 5. So this is where we see her really there. She's interacting with them quite a bit there. So she shows up with I think it's not the she shows up with the dog.
No, she doesn't bring the dog.
No, she shows up to look after the kids, right?
Yeah, she shows up to try and take the kids off their hands.
Yes, and when they're not looking, that's when the kids transform and get older.
Oh my god.
So I mean, obviously they did it right in front of them, but the first time that it happened, it was when they were not looking and Agatha's just sitting off to the side. She was literally looking after them or interacting with them and doing these things.
And then the kids age up. Yeah.
And then the kids age up. Yeah.
So actually in both scenes where the kids age up, she is present.
Yep.
So we were under the assumption the kids were doing it themselves, but it's possible that they weren't.
Yeah. So and then that is the same episode where later Sparky is found dead, which then leads to the kids even prompting like bring him back, Mom, bring him back. And Agnes even says, "Oh, you can do that? You can bring people back?" You know, she keeps playing that, and Agatha's also the one that breaks out of character and says, "Oh, do you want me to run that back to Wanda?"
Yes, so that's
cluing Vision and more.
It's another one of those things where I believe that she was trying to tip off Vision. She was trying to get Vision to distrust Wanda to separate the two. Yeah. That's pretty clear in my mind of what she was trying to do. And it's also the first time that she attempts to take the kids. Yes. So maybe she had something to do with the kids aging up, but maybe she didn't expect that to happen. And she thought she'd be able to walk out with those babies then and there.
Yep.
But she wasn't able to. The kids aged up and Wanda never let them out of her sight at this point.
Yeah, no, you're right. And then we have Pietro
coming in at the end of the episode.
And we find out that we can see from behind that Agatha's there, and Pietro has these purple, there's a purple magic coming off of Pietro's back. So she had something to do with his being summoned, that he was brought in. So whether he is a false manifestation that she made, or she did somehow bring him from an alternate reality or interact with this reality bending magic that's going on, she definitely had something to do with it, and it was to her purpose, to serve her more. So in the next episode, Agatha is not there. This is the Halloween episode. She's not really present the whole episode. In fact, she is out trying to escape the barrier when Vision finds her.
But we can be under the assumption that, one, she's sort of active in the sense that Pietro is keeping Wanda distracted. As I said before, Pietro was basically distracting Wanda while Vision was able to go off on his own. And Vision flies up into the air, getting a look around, and sees a car, Agnes, at the edge of the hex. Basically, it's like she was luring him to the edge of the hex, luring him away from Wanda.
Yep. And we even see in the end of this episode that she specifically, the little flashback to that moment, she was completely aware. She was playing total fake when he, tries to awaken her mind. She was already awake the whole time he's saying anything. So she must have been allowing or trying to direct him to go outside the hex.
Yeah, trying to separate them as much as she could.
Yeah.
And this also prompted Wanda to expand the hex and basically weaken her control, weaken her mental state. Leading to episode 7, where she successfully takes the kids. It presumably is the actual one that was keeping Vision from getting to Wanda the whole episode. And it seems like any plans that she may have had, she got the kids. She kept Wanda and Vision separated. She has Wanda basically lured into her lair. We don't know what her plans are, but it seems like Agatha all along got what she seems to have wanted, but we don't know what her purpose was yet.
And so if we draw from just what we've seen here so far, I think you're onto something, assuming that, one, she wants the kids somehow.
Yes, I think I feel like the kids are her goal.
She wants the kids, and she wants Vision to be aware that this isn't real. And
I think she was. I think the purpose of Vision knowing it was real was just to get him away, just to make him distrust Wanda. That's my belief.
so that he maybe can't protect the kids potentially.
Yeah, because when Agnes was there the first time with the kids, she said she wanted to take the kids, and Vision said, "Oh no, Agnes, it's all right. It's quite all right. We want to have the kids here."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Agnes even said, "Oh, I'm supposed to take the kids.
Yeah.
Do you want us to run it back?" Like she basically said, she says that, "Oh, my role is to take the kids here," and Vision's basically preventing it.
Yeah.
So, I think that Agnes's goal is to get the kids all along somehow.
Yeah.
Now that leads me to believe, how do they know? How does she know that the kids are even going to be a thing? Is that just something that she latches onto when it happens, or was there always some kind of plan to?
It's possible. Maybe she's the one that created the pregnancy within Wanda, or it made it happen. I don't know. We don't know enough about Agatha at this point. Well, so I know that you said that you've watched some theories.
I've seen some theories, and which have led. I mean, I touched on it in another one of the episodes, that there's a bunch of different comics that this draws from, and I certainly have. I've tried to keep my what my opinion is separate from what I've read and seen. Because I don't want it to be too clouded, but there are certainly some things in the comics that would suggest kind of what's happening, and that is why I also, from the comics, and I think a lot of people won't be on the similar page if they've done any kind of background research. We sort of suspected all along that Agnes was going to be Agatha Harkness, who is a known MCU witch that exists, and she serves she serves essentially in the Marvel universe Mephisto, the equivalent of the devil in the Marvel comic universe, and potentially maybe we're going to see that here in the MCU. Now, again, I leave some room that they might not want to go with a full devil thing here, because that's going to alienate some viewers. So they might go with something a little more like making it just Agatha's her own purpose, or maybe she's serving some sort of other master of some kind. But in one of those comics, the plot lines are that basically that a creature, a person in conjunction with Mephisto, sort of manifest Wanda to have these two children just so they can steal them away.
And that seems to be what's happening.
Yeah.
So like, I wasn't specifically aware of that, but it's pretty clear to me that Agatha has taken these kids purposefully.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to have to see what the purpose of taking them is, in the next episode. But I also do want to move away from this maybe a little bit and move to Monica, who,
yes,
I'm excited to see. I mean, I think they were definitely leaning into it and foreshadowing it when Darcy had said in another episode that, your cells have been rewritten on a molecular level. So I really think that this is her becoming Photon. I mean, I think it's somewhat apparent at this point that she has somehow gained powers from being pushed through that barrier and being rewritten molecularly and exposed to this energy or power, which does come from. We know that the energy of the hex comes from the energy of creation, which is literally pure energy, photons of light, and so. I think I'm excited to see what's going on here. I mean, especially with that vision she had, I think that was literally her seeing photons reflecting off of things and energy, and
she's seeing energy. Yeah. So
I don't know that I just thought that was amazing and cool. It was definitely foreshadowed. And
this is something I think we had theorized that it was going to happen,
mm-hmm.
that she was gonna, that the going back through it a third time would give her
mm-hmm.
powers.
Third time's a charm. So,
yep. Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited to see that. We're basically getting the birth of a new hero here, and this episode.
Yeah, we haven't quite seen what her powers are, but
yeah, I mean at this point, I guess we'll see. I know that she becomes Photon, who is also sometimes known as the new Captain Marvel in the comics, but I do not know any of her powers. So I can assume it's probably gonna be something similar to Captain Marvel, having energetic powers, maybe being able to fly, being resistant to damage. Apparently she'll have some kind of special spectral or thermal photonic vision as well.
Yeah, it's something presumably Infinity Stone related power,
Hmm. Yeah.
but
So, um, I mean, I think those are some of the main things to latch onto here. Agatha certainly is really the biggest reveal from this episode, and Monica becoming what we can assume is potentially Photon, or at least inheriting these powers.
so the last thing I would like to touch upon is the Nexus.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
so when I looked up Nexus, I found a result of a Nexus being.
Nexus being.
And Nexus beings are those that are able to affect probability and thus the future. And these are quite powerful beings within the multiverse that basically, like the sort of time wardens. I think we saw a glimpse of them in the second Guardians movie. They
Uh-huh.
have to keep watch on these Nexus beings because they're basically able to change the future
Uh-huh.
based on the casual reading I got. And that I even read a little tidbit because there wasn't a lot on the little fandom page for Nexus beings, but there was like a casual tidbit about how Wanda's children, because Wanda is a Nexus being, Wanda's children could possess some great power, which again, leading into this theory that the kids were the goal all along.
Mm-hmm.
And notably, it gave examples of Nexus being, some of them were comic figures that I'm not specifically familiar with. Like it said Merlin is one. And it said a character named Lore. I don't specifically recognize. The recognizable Nexus beings were Scarlet Witch, Vision, and Jean Grey.
Hmm.
So if we use those as a basis of what kind of power we're talking about, we know how powerful these three are.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's good to get a little bit of light and to know maybe what the background is for Nexus. One thing this leads me to look forward at is so I think there's a lot of theories that go around about the new Loki series that's going to come out eventually.
Yes.
And what the assumption there is that the Loki series is going to be something like a time cop sort of storyline that goes with him literally basically being, messing up timelines, and that there is in the MC, or not in the MCU, in the Marvel comics, a sort of a police force, like a time force, that make sure that the timelines all stay in, how they're supposed to be. And with Loki basically kind of messing up his timeline by not having gone through what he was supposed to there, I think that there's going to be, that may have some correlation to what we're seeing right here. If this Nexus being, if this probability time, changing abilities here, I mean, we're already having reality being warped in this world, that might have some tie into Loki. And we know that it's got to have some kind of attachment to the multiverse of madness.
Yeah, we are entering a phase of the Marvel universe where multiverses are being, basically, we're breaking out of our Marvel Cinematic Universe into the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse.
Yeah, which is the only way that it can go at this point. Endgame introduced us that, it said here there's multiple points in time, and they went and affected all those points in time by showing up. And so at this point, where else is there to go except to know that there is more to all the there's more multiverses to explore.
It almost makes me wonder if Falcon and the Winter Soldier is going to touch upon this.
I have a feeling that that's not going to be the case. I feel like they're going to have them be more or less centered on, what's happening here on Earth, and not getting too much in the multiverse. Because I feel like we're getting so much of that exposure right now in WandaVision that it's almost going to be like a little break in between us moving through the next phase and getting to the like it's going to basically, I think we're going to stay grounded here on Earth for a little while, and maybe get some things. I mean, maybe they can't ignore it, but I don't see them jumping into another crazy multiverse thing right off the bat.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, only time will tell. And we have 2 episodes left of WandaVision. And honestly, I'm excited to see what Agatha, what her plans were, what her goal was.
there's a part of me that's glad that Disney did a week by week thing. So it's, kind of like back in the day, something to look forward to as opposed to having seasons just released all immediately. But damn it, Disney, I wish it all just came out at the same time. I could binge it all.
See, I think I've kind of loved it because it's allowed me to sit with these episodes. Honestly, they've gotten me. I've watched every episode of this show twice. Like I don't do that with most shows, but I mean, I did that with The Mandalorian, I'll say. Disney's just good at making me watch episodes more than once.
It's like they know what they're doing.
Fuck. All right, but I think that's about it for this episode.
Yeah, that's all my thoughts. So, until next time, I'm Robert.
I'm Ryan.
Have a good one, guys.
Yep.